Okay, back at it with my main man, Stuckey. If you're watching this on a little thing called YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on the pod, go subscribe to his podcast, Big Bets on Campus. We got bowl games. We got a lot of bowl games, and I already got a strong bowl take for the Final Four in terms of one of the games that I don't like, I love. And you can just find him on Twitter hammering out winners because that's what he did last week. 49ers, winner. Houston Texans, winner. Green Bay Packers, winner. And if you threw in my logic with Nick Saban, winner. I mean, we were just handing out some cash last weekend, Stuckey.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. It's been a good month plus in the NFL, good season. So hopefully we can close strong. Are you gonna divulge your hot bowl take, or are you gonna save that for our episode next week?
No. Well, it'll build. I mean, we got a month, so we might as well just
4 months
write
till
it.
the playoffs start.
So here's the thing, and I regretted it immediately when I saw it. I'm a Fresno State guy, so I've been watching Kalen DeBoer's career. The guy's a fucking ass kicker. Now, his team looked weird at times, but he's proven this. A big game, that guy can really coach. Now he's got a month. If I believe that Kalen DeBoer is a top 5-ish coach, it's happened pretty quickly the last year, but I think if you just project him, right, where he's going to be viewed schematically, his staff, Grubb, his offensive coordinator that Saban tried to hire, I'm a Sark hater historically. I'll give him his credit this year. Team stacked. Conference sucks, though, and he does have a high payroll, right, with the NIL. But his team looks good. I cannot, after watching what he did against Oregon and Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy, I mean, Oregon's got a high-priced staff with a bunch of players. I thought he took it to him on Friday night, and that was a game I would imagine they say it's 50-50. That place was rocking with Green. And Kalen DeBoer is just a big-time coach. You give him a month, it's like Saban as an underdog in that game. You had to be thinking, of course his team was ready to roll, against Georgia, who's not as good. Now, this, to me, the talent discrepancy of Texas and Washington, you could argue it's a coin flip because obviously Texas is loaded, but Washington's pretty loaded too. They got a ton of guys who are going to get drafted in the first round. They got a ton of draftable players. I'm just betting on the coach. And when you're going to give me 5.5, 6, I mean, the number's pretty high, bro. And for a guy that, look at historically on Steve Sarkisian, it's not like he's banging out 10 and 11 win seasons. This is an outlier year for him. And he's really benefited. That conference sucked this year relative. I think 2 years ago or last year was really good. So I'm going to hammer. I might put an uncomfortable amount of money on Washington within the next week, as long as that number stays about where it is, and it hasn't budged. So what do you think about the logic there? Just Kalen DeBoer against Sark getting a lot of points. That seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I would lean. I haven't dove in fully yet. The bowl market and those games the market will be pretty settled. It's not going to go to Michigan. It's not going to go to Texas 3. So, and they're big bettors who would move the market. They're not going to tie up credit for that long. And so, and you have the Michigan Alabama line, which is, it's not going to get to 3 either way. And this is going to stay above 3. So you have time. As of right now, I have weeks to dive into this matchup in depth. Yeah, I would lean Washington for a couple of reasons. You mentioned DeBoer. I mean, not to get too into the weeds, but yeah, I just don't think that the market properly accounts for how good he is. Even if you go back to his days as an OC at Indiana, Fresno, Eastern Michigan, and then even take his time at FCS, Southern Illinois, I think.
Southern Illinois.
As a coordinator, head coach since 2010, his teams are 68% against the spread. I mean, he has just been a consistently good bet from a matchup standpoint too. And number one, look, Washington did look weird. There were some rumors that they were dealing with the flu for a couple of weeks. Their defense had a ton of injuries. They were finally healthy. They started playing Bruner more at linebacker, blah, blah. I won't get too into the weeds. And then they also they have 3 Sunday receivers who were now finally all fully healthy. You got McMillan, Polk, and Adunze all finally healthy for the first time in a while.
The running back, the Mississippi State transfer is pretty good too. A solid college
I would
player.
throw him out. I would assume that's what DeBoer is going to do here. You cannot run on Texas. Nobody can. Can't do it. Don't try it. I mean, Alabama couldn't. Ollie Gordon with Oak State. No one can. And their D-line is unbelievable. They can't run on it. But their secondary has some weaknesses. That's typically at corner. So Washington come out, spread them out with your 3 Sunday receivers. and I think that they'll have success there. So yeah, I think that this probably should be a field goal. I think it's too high. I would lean Washington with you. Coaching edge for sure for Washington, especially with this much time to prepare. And yeah, I don't hate your take at all. Xavier Worthy too, for Texas, one of the best receiver return men in the country. I doubt he plays. I mean, Sark's going to not give anything away, but he's on crutches after the game, after their Big 12 championship game. So we'll see on his status. He's really important. Their most explosive receiver, one of the best return men in the country as well. So that would be a big loss. But the weakness on this Texas team is their secondary. And with your 3 healthy receivers now with Penix and a month to prepare, that Texas defense could be in trouble. Texas is going to get its points as well, even though Washington's defense is playing better. I would lean your side, and it should be an awesome watch. It should be a highly entertaining game. There's a reason that the total's at 64.
I think it's the primetime game. I think the Alabama-Michigan is the first game, and they put that one at night.
That might not be the most exciting watch. So yeah, I think they got it right.
Yeah, because last year wasn't Ohio State and Georgia was the second game, and it was pretty unreal. I think if you substitute, now we got a ways to go. He's got to prove that he can do it for a long period of time at this level. But if we just look back in 5 years, and let's say he's won the Big Ten, and he's viewed as like no one even argues it. Like if you just put Kirby or Harbaugh or some Brian Kelly or just a guy with a lot of name recognition as the coach of this Washington team, do you think you could shave 2 points immediately off that spread, just the initial number?
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you that in like the very, very deep, sharp betting groups, DeBoer is one of the most highly respected coaches in all of college football. So those groups and people tend to be a little ahead of the general market and the general public for sure. So yeah, there's a reason he garners a ton of respect in some of the sharper circles that follow college football the closest. So yeah, I would agree with you. There's no reason to believe that his reputation and market value is just only going to climb.
Well, even if, let's say, we're recording this right after a story about Harbaugh being offered $11 million, but he can't interview with NFL teams. Like, guys, you do know NFL teams pay like $15 to $20 million. So it's like, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money to 99.9% of people, but relative to his profession and his, like, he can make, someone would gladly pay. Sean Payton just got $18 million a year. So if you don't think Harbaugh, someone would give him a number in that world, you're out of your mind. But let's just say he leaves to the NFL. Now, I know the assistant offensive line coach, or not, he's not the assistant offensive, he's the O-line coach, OC, Sharon Moore, who did an awesome job with Harbaugh out. At a job like that, you're not just a lock to give it to someone like that. To me, DeBoer is the guy that Michigan would immediately call. Now, you could argue Seattle, great place. They're going to the Big Ten. But let's face it, I mean, Michigan is just a better job than Washington. I'm a West Coast guy. Honestly, probably not even close. So, and Washington's an awesome job, right? So, Michigan's like fucking coaching the Cowboys or something, the Yankees. I mean, it's a top 2 or 3 job in all college football. And you have to wonder, would he, like, if I told you in a month that he's the head coach of Michigan, it's not the craziest thing to happen, right? If you factor in some of the variables if Harbaugh leaves.
Yeah. And I also could see if Harbaugh stays, Big Ten gets tougher next year. Ohio State still doesn't have a reliable quarterback situation. If they disappoint again, Day is gone.
And disappoint could just be, he could go 11-1. He loses that game again.
Game again. I could see DeBoer going there. And yeah, so I definitely think he's going to eventually get a bigger job. He's probably the top name, I would imagine, if one of those spots opens up.
You watch a lot of college football. I guess I'm a little biased. I don't watch as much Big Ten besides, the 2 main teams that matter the most. I'm just not Wisconsin and Iowa. I'd fucking rather watch paint dry. Games like that, just given the way they've played lately. Are Oregon and Washington going into the next year just going to clearly be like the 3 and 4 teams right behind Michigan and Ohio State?
Yeah. Clearly. It's an enormous gap just from an offensive standpoint. There's I mean, look, just look at who the Big Ten. I'm happy just because the Big Ten championship game now is going to be relevant, and the Big Ten West is just
it's a joke.
It's basically like a group. It's like a group of 5 conference trying to come out. Whoever wins it now plays a Power 5 team in the conference championship. So, yeah, they're going to be right there with Michigan and Ohio State, and they might even be ahead of Michigan. We'll see where Michigan is. They lose a ton, and they're going to lose a ton to the draft. And then if Harbaugh goes, I think that's probably why they want to lock him up. You lose some recruits, and so Oregon. And Oregon's going to get this
even USC and UCLA, I mean, they are liable to knock someone off during the year.
And USC could have one of the biggest turnarounds we saw, UCLA's defense. And for once, Lincoln Riley made a good hire, getting Lynn as their defensive coordinator from UCLA, former Ravens guy. So if their defense can take a leap and they find a quarterback, it looks like Oregon's probably going to get Dylan Gabriel. So they're going to be right in the mix as a top 5, 6 team. They might even be the best team in the Big Ten next year. And then we'll see what happens with Washington, but they're going to be right in the mix too. So yeah, I'm excited because that entire conference gets more excited. Sad that the Pac-12 is gone, but the Big Ten championship at least will be a banger of a game every year now.
And at least the teams that matter for them are playing the Big Ten team, so they're going to be on major games. And even Utah, playing the K-States and the Oklahoma States will be, entertaining. Yep. When I watch Dylan Gabriel, I watch a lot of Oklahoma. Is he kind of like a poor man's Penix vibe to him? Lefty. You can move a little better, obviously, but the Oregon, they are not screwing around, taking their chances with any of their, young high school recruits. They're just going to plug and play these guys and try to win big. I like it.
Yep.
Okay, let's dive into the NFL. We're just like a week away. We got Saturday and Sunday games, so we're gonna have a lot of action. I love that little stretch right after college football ends. Get like the Heisman ceremony, but then the NFL's like, yeah, we're gonna take over for a couple weeks, and they're just throwing fucking games. Feels like every night of the week, multiple double headers. So it's a fun time for the NFL. As we have kind of this break, and even those early college football bowl games, my Bulldogs going to New Mexico games like that, are fun to bet on. They're not always fun to watch. Depends. So this week,
yeah, it's a good mix. You have the NFL games that matter on a Saturday. Then you have, pay attention to with your bets. Hey, flip it on if it's close, if it gets crazy with the bowls. So there's not 100 college football games you got to pay attention to. So it's a really good mix. And makes those Saturdays fun in December.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivery with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Can Uber Eats deliver foam fingers? No. But chicken fingers? Yes. Touchdown dances? No. Buttermilk ranches? Yes. Field goals? No. Grilling coals? Yes. Running backs? No. Ribs? Yes. Blitzes? No. Beers? Yes. Defense? No. Deodorant? Yes. Game-clinching turnovers? No. But pastry turnovers? The kind with delicious apple filling? Oh, yeah. Because that's groceries. And get those delivered with Uber Eats, too, along with food from your favorite restaurants and other essentials. And the best part? You can get it all without missing a second of action on your TV. There you have it. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details. Okay, let's go to Chicago, who I'll say this about Eberflus. His team has played a lot better, right? Defensively, clearly they're better. The Justin Fields experiment, it has, I think a lot of people that want to defend him just blame the offensive coordinator, who might suck, but I would also say if you just ran the plays that I think fans want to run, I don't think it would be as pretty as you think. So they're, to me, a hard team to kind of gauge. Now at home, divisional game, this is just your classic. I kind of throw out the records, and let's face it, the Lions in a dome last week obviously can look really fast. They're probably offensively they're probably not that much different than the 49ers, right? Sweet, fast tight end, Jameson Williams. They got multiple running backs, St. Brown. Like their team offensively, the weapons are pretty legit. Defensively, though, at any moment, like you can score 28 points on them. So it's just one of those classic divisional games where you just You take the team getting more than a field goal, especially at home.
Yeah, I like the Bears here. Anything over a field goal. The Bears 2 weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, should have beat the Lions in Detroit. They were up 12 with 4 to go. One of my bets on the show. Luckily, they held on to cover, but they blew the lead late. This, number one in the spot line, second straight road game. Bears coming off a bye, which has a little more value late in the year when you're dealing with a couple more bumps and bruises. But this Bears team's trending up. These two teams are kind of headed in opposite directions defensively. EPA per play since week 7, Bears 6th on defense. Lions 29th. Success rate, Bears 8th, Lions 31st. So this Bears D, look, they added Sweat, helped their pass rush. Jalen Johnson's playing like an all-pro corner, and they just got healthier across the board. So their defense is playing a lot better. Lions defense, it's a mess in the secondary. They had some injuries early on in the season, which didn't help there. And now they lost a player that many people might not be familiar with, but Aleem McNeil, their nose tackle, one of the better interior defensive linemen in the NFL. I think he's even better than Hutchinson. So important that he just went on IR. Big, major loss, especially in a game like this. And also, not only is this a good spot for the Bears against the Lions defense that has struggled with mobile quarterbacks all year, it's outdoors in conditions. It's not going to be as bad as it was originally forecasted, but it's still going to be 15, 20-mile-an-hour winds. It's going to be freezing cold outdoors. You mentioned how good the Lions are indoors. Jared Goff turns into an absolute pumpkin outdoors his entire career. This is a guy who's 30-15 against the spread indoors. Outdoors under 50 degrees in December, 1-6 against the spread. You look at his numbers this year, 8.1 yards per attempt indoors with 2.5 touchdowns per game. Outdoors, 6.9 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown per game. His whole career, indoor, 5.3% touchdown percentage. Cut that in half outdoors, 2.8%. We talked about this, I think, the other week. He just is not the same quarterback outdoors in conditions. Bears defense is playing a lot better. Fields is also playing a lot better, worked on some of the mechanics of his drop back and his 5 and 7 step drop when he was out. Offensive line is healthier. They should be able to run it now on Detroit without McNeil in there. So, yeah, I think you take over the field goal here with the Bears, who are definitely trending up in this Lions defense. It's just a mess right now. I mean, think about it. They almost blew that game last week against the Saints team that lost their quarterback. We're playing without multiple starting receivers and just is not very good offensively.
No, they're terrible. Yeah.
So this Lions D is a mess. They're kind of a finesse team too. And Goff just struggles outdoors. So, yeah, give me the Bears over a field goal.
Monday Night Football, while it was, listen, it's probably the best game of Jake Browning's life. He was the player of the week in the NFL and the AFC offensively. It was cool to watch. Now, you kind of take a step back. If the quarterback just plays solid, they do have really good weapons. Chase and elite player mix. It's not that crazy. Their defensive coordinator's good. But what a devastating loss for Jacksonville, right? I mean, Houston just pulled that game out against Denver, so they're right kind of on your heels if you lose. You're in control, or you were winning the game, and Trevor's playing good, and then to lose him, which looked like, a season ender, which, turned out to be a little more basketball-y, where the guy, I think, really freaked out, probably thought his career was over. Turns out he's going to be okay, but they also lose their left tackle. They're just banged up. They only have a 1 game, up in the division. Now you got to go to Cleveland, who's coming off, an L, who needs to win. Flacco actually looked kind of capable in that game against the Rams. This is a rough spot for the Jags that at one moment during that Monday Night Football game, you're like, oh, they're going to win it. They're going to have a ton of momentum, and they're going to, probably end up cruising by a couple games to this division. Now, I wouldn't say I put all my money on the Houston Texans to win the division, but it's definitely become very, very interesting. I don't know. I think it's easy for Doug, kind of old school NFL guy, to be like, he's questionable. Like, I mean, there's a chance Trevor Lawrence doesn't play for several weeks, right? Who knows? Maybe we don't see him till the playoffs. But it's a major freaking concern, and they lose their left tackle. So I mean, it's just a devastating. That play was if any team in the NFL that loses their left tackle and they're starting quote unquote star quarterback on one play, you literally can't have a worse play.
Yeah, and you also Christian Kirk has been their most productive receiver for.
Was that the first play of the game?
Yeah, very early on. I think the first drive. I don't know if the first play. They lost a couple defenders too. So it's bad. And now on a short week, after that loss. You're going on the road with CJ Beathard, who is and for what it's worth, I guess I should say this. Every year for the past decade, I've gone up to Cleveland, watched the Ravens play, visit some friends up there, have a good time. It's almost always this weekend. College football's died down. I don't have as much college football work, so I can get away for a weekend. But for whatever reason, the schedule makers put Ravens at Browns in September this year. So I picked this weekend to go up there. It's only one college football game. I was like, this good weekend. Texans, Browns, both should be in the mix. Excuse me, Jags, Browns, both should be in the AFC playoff mix. Fun game to go to. Well, they both are still in the playoff mix. Little did I know, it's going to be 30-mile-an-hour winds, torrential downpour, and it's going to be Joe Flacco versus CJ Beathard. So at least I'm not going to the Steelers-Patriots game. But and also there's a bar right behind where we're sitting, which I'll be in most of the afternoon watching the other games. But I like the Browns here. Look, Beathard, he's capable. He knows the system. But now with offensive line injuries, no Christian Kirk in these conditions. And here's the one thing with Beathard. He's not mobile. He can't move around. And you're going up against that Browns defensive front. It's going to lead to disaster. And look, this Browns, I don't know what it is. I mean, this Browns defense, if you look metrically speaking, they're number one in the NFL EPA per play. But at home, they dominate. They are allowing 10 points per game at home, which is a stupid number. They're allowing 30.5 on the road. I don't think I've ever seen that much of a discrepancy. If you just look from an EPA perspective, they at home, just in their home games this year, small sample, but they would be the greatest defense in the history of the NFL for a single season. Now, granted, other teams have to, play a full schedule, and it's only been 6 or 7 games, but it shows you how dominant they've been at home. And now you're going up against a backup quarterback, injuries on the offense on a short week. I don't know how the Jags are going to have any success in this game in those conditions. And Flacco's had a lot of success in his career in the wind. Cooper might not go. Denzel Ward should be back on defense for the Browns, which is important. But Flacco can still throw a deep ball, even in conditions. And if it's a little short, guess what? You're probably going to get a couple PI calls here. I trust the Browns offense a little more. But most importantly, the Browns defense will be without Lawrence, without the tackle, without Kirk. Even Etienne's backed up. Even Beathard's a little banged up.
I know.
But with all those injuries, the Browns defense, by far, the Browns home defense, by far is the best unit in this game.
It'd be a pretty crazy if they lose that game and the Texans are playing the Jets and now Zach Wilson inserted back. All of a sudden, they'd have the same record, right?
Guess who Jags have next week with maybe not Leonard, without Lawrence, the Ravens.
So it would change fast. Now, to me, the Texans-Jets game kind of does have a little bit of a feel that I don't feel
they're going to lose that game. Probably.
Exactly. That's one thing. Saleh, D'Amico was his linebacker. They're going to know each other pretty well. That one I wouldn't be as confident betting on the Texans. I will say one thing about football, which is funny, and I'm guilty of this. We anoint guys like, oh, they drafted Sauce Gardner. They should have picked Derek. Or they took Derek Stingley. They should have taken Sauce. All of a sudden, you watch Derek Stingley. Dude looks like fucking Revis out there moving around, picking the ball off. He's a much smoother athlete than Sauce. And here's the thing about Sauce. Good player. For a big corner, I kind of like that guy to be a physical tackler like Jalen or Sherman. He is not that at all. So this notion, sometimes we do that when two players, same position, are picked, and the one guy has a lot more early success, and the other guy's really coming on. I know this. I'd take Derek Stingley, assuming like he's just going to stay healthy because physically he's a freak, and I understand why they took him. I mean, if they hit on that pick along with their other guys, whether they end up winning 10 games this year or they end up going 8-9, whatever, their future is as bright as anyone when you factor in all these rookie contracts.
Yeah, I mean, you have a top 10 quarterback. I think that's fair to project. You have a top 10 quarterback next year.
Yeah,
Stroud's second year.
I mean, he's kind of been one this year, right?
Yeah, you could argue next year he could get into the top 5, and you have him on a rookie contract, and then you have Anderson. Their defense is starting to come along.
Yeah,
you have the two most important positions, and yeah, Stingley's look great. You have Stingley and Anderson, and by the way, they it sucks that he's out for the year. It's really going to hurt them.
He break his ankle, or is it like a bad?
Tank Dell, who I love, but that's one of the other most important positions in the NFL, a star receiver. You also have a really good left tackle. So that they are set up for success. If they can find a way, they have a pretty easy schedule. I agree that Jets game is very trappy. But the Jags Browns, if you look at you can look at the leverage indexes. The most important game of the weekend is that Jags Browns game. The loser of that game, like the Browns lose, it's going to be really tough for them to get into the playoffs. If the Jags lose, all of a sudden, you're in the wild card hunt, or you're not even a lock for the division. You got the Ravens on deck.
I know,
so that
crazy.
Game is very important. It's also very important for that a lot of other AFC teams in the wild card mix, like the Bills. I just took a future on the Bills this week, a little 50-1 flyer to win the Super Bowl, because I think there's going to be chaos. And the one thing I know in the NFL is all these teams down the stretch that need to win more times than you would ever think, they end up losing, especially in the last week.
Totally agree.
You always expect chaos in the NFL. Perfect example will be the Texans losing to the Jets this weekend. If you're one of those other AFC teams, it'll be a fun. One of the reasons I bet the Bills too is just for a couch change. It'd make the rest of the season even more fun, because every one of those games I'll have a little, I'll have even rooting interest tonight. I can root against the Steelers who are in the mix, and I can root. Otherwise, I would cut my limbs off with a butter knife instead of watching that game. So
think how good you'll feel if the Bills win this week, and next week all of a sudden they beat the Chiefs and the Cowboys. You're like, geez, I mean, my team's getting hot. Now it could go the other way too.
Yeah, then they're done if they lose the next two. If they lose this game, I actually think they're going to beat the Chiefs. But if they lose, they got to win out to get the 10 wins, and that includes the Dolphins and the Cowboys. So this game is just massive. If they win out, they're in. They'll get to 11 wins, but they probably realistically got to get to 10, and then you might need help, but that should get you in with 7 teams, even though it's not a guarantee. But I'm sure that the teams. Yeah, whoever gets the Ravens, Dolphins play each other New Year's Eve. Most likely that'll decide the 1 seed. Loser of that game gets the 2. Not only do you not get so say you lose that game, not only do you not get a bye and home field advantage throughout, your prize could be the Bills on that first weekend. So just that could be an absolutely massive game.
I would say the Ravens would be much more equipped to handle that game at home than the Dolphins. That would suck, because they would have had a fantastic season. All of a sudden, I mean, what's the line on that game? Assuming the Bills have been playing well, and I mean, it's not as big as you would think for your typical 2-7 game, right? Yeah. So I'd feel bad because
could be a pick that game.
So I think the Dolphins. You know what's crazy is when you look at the AFC and NFC. It's like whoever is the healthiest and comes out playing the best out of the Cowboys, Niners, and Eagles are clearly going to be the favorite in the Super Bowl, right? Yep. I mean, and it could, depending on who they're playing, be the pretty big line for Super Bowl Sunday. The AFC is pretty fucking nuts. I mean, it's pretty wide open. The Chiefs are clearly a shell of themselves, what they've been over the last 5 years. Do you trust the Dolphins? I mean, when's the last time the Miami Dolphins won a playoff game? Their record speaks for itself about going on the road in cold weather conditions. So getting one of those top seeds is basically a must. I mean, if they want to have any postseason success, listen, I'm not to talk shit about your Ravens, but it's not like we have a long resume about Lamar come these January big games. Now their defense is really good relative to their competition. You'd say, well, they should probably win the AFC if all things are going well, but that's one of the reasons I took a flyer on the Bills. If they get in, they could go through. They could run through the AFC.
We
thought the AFC was a lot better. It just turns out with the injuries and the way it's broken out on their side, it turns out the NFC just turned out, because at the top, which is all that matters.
Both conferences, the NFC's top. Like I had the 49ers, the number 1 team by far. I actually have the Cowboys right now, number 2. But the Chiefs' offense has been a mess. Not many people could have predicted how bad it's been. So they're just a shell of themselves. And the AFC now is basically a 3-team race unless the Bills get in. And it's the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins. And all of those teams have flaws. And the Mark Andrews loss is huge for Baltimore as well. But it was supposed to be, the AFC was going to be 7, 8, 9 teams, unless the Bills get in, which is the the wild card here. But there was supposed to be 7, 8, 9 teams deep. Trevor Lawrence now injured. You can get him out. Herbert, he's going to be out. He's one of the top 10, 15 quarterbacks. Burrow got hurt. I mean, it's
Aaron
insane.
Rodgers, Jets, never been a factor.
Aaron Rodgers goes down for the Jets. So you had, 5 or 6 quarterbacks. You even have some of the other guys going. Kenny Pickett getting hurt. I mean, the quarterback injuries in the AFC this year have been ridiculous. So yeah, it's definitely way more wide open, and it's going to be a lot easier of a path for those top seeds. But yeah, as of right now, I definitely would make the NFC a favorite.
Yeah, I don't condone, in any profession, but obviously a public profession where, you're on social media a lot, going after someone's wife or girlfriend. But Jamal Adams' quote of "when they go low, I go lower" is a pretty solid quote. I got to get that's a good line, even though Pete, I saw yesterday, was not happy. He told, basically we don't do that around here, but Jamal refused to back off. This is just, listen, that game last week for the 49ers, the moment the schedule came out, they had been talking about, they never hid from it. It's a big deal in 49er land for fucking 9 months. Honestly, the moment Purdy got hurt, they already knew they were playing the Eagles on the schedule the next year because of the divisional rotations. That was a Super Bowl level game for Kyle, for the team, for Debo, for everybody. And that was a kitchen sink game. And they beat the shit out of them, which, as we talked about last week, it's not that crazy. They had just beat 2 teams that are 2 of the better teams in the league, definitely 2 of the better quarterbacks in the league in 6 days, ran out of juice. The Niners leaned on them. I saw Fred Warner say yesterday, like, we got to move on. It's the NFL. We can't just keep talking about the Eagles here on Wednesday and Thursday, but it's like keep getting talked about, right? With Dom, it's just, I'm not saying they put their feet up. They're obviously a team that, it's not just favored to win the Super Bowl. Just if you watch football, they should win the Super Bowl. I could see them, Seattle, and Fred Warner said this, despite some of these games, the score looking a little worse. If you watch the game can feel a little weird at times, and he's not necessarily wrong. Now, on Thanksgiving, I think the final score was 31-17, but the Niners were up, 21-3 or something at half. So the Niners beat the shit out of them. They are clearly way better than Seattle, but I could see this game. Like, if you told me they were down 17-10 at half, just sleepwalk through it. Even the crowd, I could just see this. The buzz in this place is not. Now, if they were playing the Ravens, like they are in a couple weeks or something, but these next 2 weeks against Seattle and Arizona, I don't know. I could see the Niners going a little like University of Washington after they beat Oregon. They're going to win, but these enormous spreads. I mean, next week against Arizona, assuming they win this game, regardless by how many, is what? Double digits, 14 points. Yeah. So I would just be very careful these next 2 weeks. Not saying they can't, because they easily can, but it wouldn't. I don't expect a loss. This game would be more losable than next week if just Geno was hot and the wide receivers. But I definitely could see this thing being weird for a while.
Yeah, I love Seattle here. I mean, I loved San Francisco last week. As soon as they rolled.
Upset spot or just the points?
I could say I think the 49ers probably pull it out, but I think this has the feel of like it's 20-20 with 5 to go. And after a slow start. Yeah, I mean, look, they're coming back cross country after a huge win, could come out a little flat. Not only that, and they're at the peak of their market value now. I mean, like, they've won 4 straight in dominant fashion after the bye week. I mean, like, you're in the NFL, what you really want to do is sell high, buy low. This is the perfect spot to do it after that big game. And then, by the way, Seattle has lost 3 straight. 2 of them, won by 1 point. Then they lost to the Cowboys in a game they fought, and then they got blown out by the 49ers. Geno Smith wasn't really healthy that game. Short week. Whatever. 49ers are clearly better, but they played last on Thursday night. They have more time to prep, more rest, and this is their season. It's, as you said, kitchen sink game. Carroll said, look, we're going to show up. We're going to make the playoffs. And there's one thing Carroll's good at. He is the Tomlin of the NFC. In these spots, he always gets his team ready to go, and they'll show up. He's, for what it's worth, past 20 years, he's 50-33-3 against the spread as an underdog, 60.2%, 20-12 in the division. Second most profitable, about 150 coaches over the past 20 years, only behind Mike Tomlin. He's also 21-5 against the spread, 81%, when his team is on a losing streak of 2 or more games. 81%, covering by about a touchdown per game. Most profitable coach in NFL history in that spot. And then just to provide added context to the buy low, sell high spot, divisional road dogs of more than 10 points, usually like, hey, the other division team is rolling at the time. No one wants to fade them. 56% over the past 30 years. Teams laying double digits after 4 or more consecutive wins over the past 20 years. So again, 4 or more straight, you're a double-digit favorite. So you're playing a team that you're clearly better than. No one wants to fade you, right? So line can be a little inflated. You also could just be a little flat. You're not going to always be sharp in the NFL every week. Those teams since 2003, 61, 80, and 1 against the spread, 43.3%. So yeah, this is just the spot. Double-digit road divisional dog playing for its season. A lot of familiarity between these teams. 49ers could be flat. Seahawks will give you everything they got. So yeah, I think that I'll say like 49ers end up winning like 24-20, somewhere around in that ballpark.
Any thoughts before we get out of here on the Cowboy-Eagle game?
I like the Cowboys. I wish it was at a field goal or better. Look, the Eagles, they lost. We'll see if the Cowboys can finally win a big game. I mean, they dominated the Eagles in Philly, and then they just did what Dallas and Dak does in the big moments. They melt. But there's no reason why their offense, now on a fast track, where they just have been dominant, can't do the same thing they did to the Eagles defense, right? The offensive line's fully healthy. They completely handled the Eagles pass rush. And the Eagles cannot defend. We saw this last week again. Cowboys have they have good tight end. You put CeeDee Lamb in the slot, quarterback playing at a high level. You could pick apart this Eagles secondary. So there's no reason why the Cowboys shouldn't move up and down the field just like they did in Philly. And their defense, I trust them to make a couple more plays, especially at home. And you have to remember that this Eagles team, just because they lost last week, there's still a residual effect. They've played. I mean, how much do they still have left in the tank? You went, the Cowboys to the Chiefs, to the Bills in overtime, to, a hyped game against the 49ers. Now you got to pick it up, go on the highway and go to Dallas. Dallas on extent. The Eagles are getting no break on their schedules here. They've been lucky overall, but now their schedules has been very unlucky. 49ers, revenge spot off a couple of blocks, extended rest while they're playing a game, where they're on the field for 100 plays. Now they play that game, Dallas off a game where they played on Thursday, already at home. They're sitting at home, a couple extra days to prep, rest. So I like Dallas. I wouldn't lay 3.5. But I threw it in some money line parlays with the Dolphins. I think they win, and we'll learn a lot about Dallas. If they can't win this game in this spot, and I know the Eagles could get Dallas Goedert back, which would help because they need a third receiver. But they can't win this game in this spot.
Totally agree.
They're not winning the NFC. You can write them off.
No, for sure. I mean, the good thing for Philly, even if they lose, because it would feel like our season just fell apart in 2 games. Dallas then does, I think, play the Bills and the Dolphins back-to-back games. So they still got a long. Easier. Yeah, they got a long way to go. So then the Eagles, I think, play Seattle in that Monday night game, and next week they got flexed.
Yeah, and then they get really easy schedule. And the thing is, if
they play the Giants, I think they haven't even played the Giants yet this season. They play them twice to end the season. So
So, and if you're looking at it, if you're worried about tiebreakers, if Dallas wins this game, then they're tied record-wise. But
conference,
Philly would still have, if the season ended today, Philly would still have the division, and that's it. If they remain tied, if they won out from that point on, and Philly's much more likely to win out. But because they both lost to San Francisco,
Arizona,
Dallas's losses to Arizona, Philly's losses to the Jets, both bad teams, but one's out of conference, Philly would get the tiebreaker. So the Cowboys have to pass them in the standings, unless they lose like a couple more division. They each lose a couple more games and end up tied. But Philly will still
that Arizona game is a pretty devastating L for Dallas.
Multiple ways. It could come back to haunt them multiple times.
Yeah, I think this is one thing about Philly is, Reddick is really good. He played for anybody. But Fletcher Cox is old. Brandon Graham is old. They're 2 young stud defensive tackles. Like, one guy weighs 350 pounds. It's just, you get tired easier.
Yep.
And Jalen Carter is a rookie. It's mid-December, and they've already played typically what he would do in a college football season. So he's got to be gassed. He doesn't have the same quite impact in December that maybe he had in October. And he's probably their second most talented defender. And their secondary, I mean, I think the Niners felt pretty comfortable talking a lot of shit about Bradbury because they know they can't cover him. And their safety positions, like they're not covering guys in space. I mean, who's covering Ferguson? I mean, it's just that their back seven, because ultimately their D-line, like those guys, even if they are a little gassed, are still big-time players. But the back seven is pretty awful. I mean, there's a reason they were begging Shaq Leonard, who was just cut in the middle of the season, to come to their team. It's not pretty. And if you have speed and talent, which the Cowboys have, the 49ers have, the Lions have, if you can just block them a little bit, it's going to be hard. Like they're not going to be all over you.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can block their offensive line, and the 49ers don't even have an elite offensive line.
No.
The Cowboys have a better offensive line. They can handle them. So like, there's no reason why, like there's Bradbury. There's a lot of data out there. Now there's different types of corners. You could have a corner, a guy like Richard Sherman played late into his career, play a lot of zone. The Eagles play a lot of man, a lot of data out there. Once you hit 30, 31 as a man corner, it's kind of like a running back. You lose a step. And in today's NFL, your production goes down quick and fast. Now it's different for different. I'm talking just on average in general. It could be 32 for some. But Bradbury and Slay, they have not played well this year. Played well last year. I think that they might be on that cliff, and it's really impacting the back end of their defense. Because if you have two corners you can really trust, then some of your other areas of weakness, they're not as exposed. But Eagles defense has major issues. So we'll see. Yeah, I think that in order for Dallas to win the NFC, they need to win this game to prove to themselves that they can beat either the Eagles or the 49ers. And they need to find a way to win the division. They're just a mentally kind of fragile, kind of finesse team. Whereas the Eagles and 49ers, they're kind of, you could play either one of those teams could go outdoors, play in the snow, you could play indoors, the Cowboys, that Cardinals loss, which could keep them out of contention for the division, for the 1 seed, could end up being their ultimate downfall.
And it's crazy. It's one thing to have a freak loss to a bad team. They kind of got their ass kicked in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't like anything fluky with turnovers.
No, it wasn't some like late 2 pick sixes in the fourth quarter that flipped the game or something. It was just, they got worked by Josh Dobbs. Well, Stuckey, let's have a weekend and kind of come down this home stretch.
Yeah, let's do it. Pray for me when I'm out in the conditions in Cleveland. Hopefully not with a losing ticket in my hand. So go Browns.
Stay hot.